Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Ariadne Stojanidou, and I welcome you to this session on behalf also, I guess that she will present herself too, of Ms. Eleni Adrianopoulou from Bielefeld University. She tried very hard to be with us live today, but she could not do it. I will, in this session, we will work with preparing the work environment in academia. I will presenting from the desk each speaker. I would like now to ask Ms. Adrianopoulou if she wants to address the audience at this point. Are you there? Well, she has a presentation.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Stoyanidou. I'm very happy to be with you virtually, as the presence could not succeed yesterday. I have heard also the whole morning very interesting presentations, and I'm very happy to support you in chairing this session.
Thank you. One last word for me. We have allocated 12 minutes to each speaker. I'm quite compulsive. I have a chronometer bought in the decade of the 80s. It still works very well. And you will permit me to interrupt the speakers once their time is up. Thank you, and I wish us all a nice work with this session. The first speaker is Ms. Orla Duke. She is the Program Manager, Scholars at Risk Europe at Maynooth University, Ireland. And she's also the person who manages all of us at Inspire Europe with very great success. Thank you, Orla, and we are ready to hear your talk on the overview of funding opportunities and academic placements in Europe for researchers at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariadne, and thank you all for this lovely opportunity to speak to you today. It's with a heavy heart because I would have loved to have been there physically in Thessaloniki and to see you all face to face, but hopefully we can all get that opportunity again soon in the future, fingers crossed. My task today is to give you an overview of the funding opportunities that are available for researchers at risk in Europe. As you can see, my objective is to look at the dedicated opportunities that exist, both funding-wise and also for academic placements, dedicated ones for researchers at risk. And I should say, researchers at risk in the main are outside the refugee process. Many are on temporary hosting agreements or work visas that have been organized through their host universities and organizations. So they are actually outside of the legal frameworks and protections that are offered to those inside the refugee system. Also to say, my presentation, you could spend nearly a whole afternoon looking at these various schemes. So I'm trying to do it quite quickly today, but also to say there are a lot of other resources that are available for researchers at risk, and also many dedicated European funding schemes for researchers that researchers at risk can also apply to. And these are all detailed on the Inspire Europe website on the resources page, and you have the link there on screen, which will also give you the links to the various websites of the initiatives I'm going to speak about. So as I said, I don't have much time today, but what I will do is give you an overview of some of these main funding resources and placement schemes that scholars and researchers at risk can avail of. The first one I'd obviously like to speak about is Scholars at Risk, the Scholars at Risk Network, and also the 13 national SAR sections, 11 of which are actually in Europe. Scholars at Risk has a network of over 500 institutions in 40 countries. And one of the key activities of the network is to arrange temporary teaching, research, and study visits for threatened scholars at its institutions around the world. In 2019, there was 581 applications made for assistance, and 115 scholars were placed. And shortly we will have the data for the 2020 academic year also. And just to say that threatened researchers at risk can themselves apply directly to SAR using a secure and confidential process online, or they can be referred to SAR directly also. The next scheme I'd like to talk about is Paul's program at the Collège de France in France. And this is a French national program for the urgent aid and reception of scientists in exile. It's funded centrally by the French government, and it was established in 2017. And it gives funding to French higher education institutes to support threatened researchers for 1-year fellowships, which can be renewed for a second year. They support approximately 100 researchers per annum, and it's open to all researchers, including doctoral students from all disciplines and all geographic origin. And the defining criteria is that the researcher is in an emergency situation and is being threatened as a result of their research work. There is a current funding scheme open, and that deadline is coming shortly on Friday, October 2nd. But to say that PAUSE runs 3 funding calls per year in the spring, summer and winter, and an annual all-round year call for scientists who are looking and for a host institution in France. The next scheme is, many of you will probably know, is the Philipp Schwarz initiative at the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation in Germany. Again, this is a national scheme provided with funding from the German government to support German higher education institutions provide full fellowships for a period of up to 24 months. There are 2 calls per year, and interested researchers should contact potential German host institutions directly. There will be, the current call is at our close at the moment, but there will hopefully be a new call announced in December of this year. The next scheme or organization is the IE Scholar Rescue Fund. And this is a global program that arranges and funds fellowships around the world. It currently is providing 150 fellowships for 1 year duration, but most fellows are entitled to apply for a second and final year of fellowship support. And researchers at risk can apply directly to Scholar Rescue Fund via their email, and all the details of the criteria and the funding application are available on the Scholar Rescue Fund website. And linked to the Scholar Rescue Fund is the EDUFI Fellowships in Finland. EDUFI is the Finnish National Agency for Education, and they have a dedicated program with Scholar Rescue Fund that's also funded by central funding from the Finnish government. And it targets researchers that are from conflict regions and at their early stages of their academic career. So it can include recent PhD graduates or researchers with limited academic experience. And again, details of that are on the EDUFI website, and the link for that is on the Inspireurope resources page. The next organization is Council for At-Risk Academics, or CARA in the UK. And CARA has a fellowship program that's, CARA itself has been established since the early 1930s and has developed a network of universities in the UK, over 120 universities, that provide fellowship opportunities for 1, 2, and up to 3 years for researchers and academics at risk. They also operate a regional-based program that is supporting Syrian academic exiles in Lebanon, Turkey, and elsewhere in the region. I also just want to briefly mention that there are a number of federal state programs in Germany with the federal states of Bremen, Baden-Württemberg, Hessen, and Hamburg, that all have their own dedicated schemes for threatened and persecuted researchers at risk. The application procedures vary between each state and each institution. Some of them you apply directly, some it's via the host institution, but all the details are available on the respective websites and how to apply. And then lastly is the Academy in Exile, and they are currently supporting 24 researchers at risk through either long-term fellowships or shorter-term 3-month stipends in Germany. And the longer-term fellowships can last from 12 to 24 months. And again, it's open to all researchers from around the world. And they're hoping to have another funding round towards the end of this year. And again, the details of which will be publicized on their website. And you can access that through the resources page on the Inspire Europe website. And just lastly, I wanted to take a few minutes to briefly mention some upcoming events that we're happening with the Inspire Europe project that many of you might be interested in. The first is a webinar on academic publishing for researchers at risk, and that will take place on October 21st, and you can register for that on the Inspire Europe website. Go under the tab for webinars. These webinars are all free, but registration is required to attend. So please do so, attend or register when you can, and then we will send you all the information afterwards. As Henrietta mentioned this morning in her presentation, we've also been working on a mapping report as part of the Inspire Europe project. And this is looking at the challenges that many researchers at risk face around Europe, some of the current initiatives that are in play to address these issues, and also opportunities that could be there to strengthen support in Europe. The report itself will be finalized at the end of October, and we hope to have a webinar launch in early November, which anyone is open to attend. There will also be a webinar for host organizations in early December, and this will be focused on how to support research at risk to make the most of their stay and their placements with the host institution. And the researchers at risk are more than welcome to obviously attend that as well. There will be speakers speaking about their own experience of being placed in an academic institution, but also those who have transitioned into the private sector also. And lastly, to keep up to date with these events and other activities of the project, you can email the Inspire Europe project at inspireeurope@mu.ie, or follow us on our Twitter handle on Twitter. So I'd just like to thank again everyone for the opportunity. I will be available for any questions, and I look forward to hearing from our fellow panelists. Thank you very much.
Hello, should I continue?
May I say one word? I hope, since we have 1 minute left from Ola's talk. Can I hear me over the? Okay. With great pride, as you heard, those who were here this morning, the rector of Aristotle University just announced one more scholarship for a researcher at risk. So Orla will include that in her next communication. Now I want to welcome my co-chair, Ms. Adrianopoulou. She's the Bridges Project Coordinator at Bielefeld University, and also she's the director for the Athens branch of the German Academic Change Service, DAD, as we all know it. And Ms. Adrianopoulou will talk about bridges for researchers in danger going to Europe, academic mentoring, and further results of projects Bridge and Bridge 2. Ms. Adrianopoulou, the floor is yours. Here, did you find Marit Egner? If Marit Egner is online, we could have her present and then Ms. Adrianopoulou will follow.
Yes, I can present first. That's
Thank you,
better.
Marit. I have a problem here.
Marit Egner, Senior Advisor, Office for Research and International Cooperation, Department of Research and Innovation Administration at the University of Oslo. She will talk about the temporary university fellowship as a stepping stone in career development. Thank you, Marit.
Just one technical question. It says that I can't share screen while someone else is sharing. Eleni, can you unshare?
I'm trying. Okay, it's a bit, yeah. Okay, now perhaps?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, we can go ahead with Marit and
Yeah. Okay. So you see my presentation, I hope. Yeah, so my name is Marit Egner. I come from the University of Oslo, and I will speak here mainly from the perspective of university hosting scholars, and also as the chair of the working package on preparing the work environment in the Inspireurope project. I also recently chaired an Erasmus Plus project called Academic Refuge, and I have shared on my first screen here the link to a MOOC that we made in this project, which is up and running currently. So if you want to learn more about academic freedom, you can join the MOOC. I will not talk more about that project in this session. So I will speak about this from the perspective of a university which already was able to host a researcher at risk. And the different possibilities that Orla talked about are mainly for researchers who come directly from their home country to Europe, while of course there are also refugees, which we know in Greece there are many who came as refugees and then search for opportunities in higher education. So maybe some of this will not apply as much for those who came first as refugees as much as those who are on temporary permits. So typically the university fellowship is for a temporary position. We've heard 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but it's always like in the process of going somewhere else. The funding is normally from external fellowships or university core budget. And it's normally initiated not by a need at the university for a task to be completed, but in order to support the researcher who is hosted. And this makes a difference in the fact that it's more open when it comes to what should that researcher actually do at the university. Normally there is a host unit at the university where the researcher is connected, and this is normally within the subject area of the researcher. Of course, many people are working interdisciplinary, and then maybe there are different opportunities to where you could be placed, but normally you will have at least one home unit. And the researchers at risk may or may not be included in a project or research group. And they may or may not have a mentor or academic contact person. I would strongly recommend to have an academic contact person, but this is not always the case. So these are some very general, typical things that comes for all these researchers at risk hosted. When I first started following up researchers at risk at the University of Oslo some 10 years ago, the researchers were typically very experienced researchers who wanted or needed a place to continue their own research in a peaceful place and using their own existing network. But currently we see that the category of researchers at risk include many more early career researchers And this has some influence on what we should do in order to make it a good stay for the researcher. And that's why I called my presentation a stepping stone, because already from day one, when you receive a researcher at your university, you need to think of what should be the next steps in the career of this researcher. So researchers at risk, I think we should bear in mind that researchers at risk contribute as other researchers and also have the same needs as other researchers. They just have some extra challenges normally. So what support is needed? I think there are like two main categories of support needed. It's a safe environment and then support for professional development. A safe environment means, of course, to be away from the risk situation, but that is not enough. It's also necessary to have some stability in life. And for many, the residence permit is connected to the current position. So when the position ends, the residence permit ends as well. And this is a stressing element. So we need to keep this in mind. Of course, if you already have a refugee status in the country where you are, this might be different. It's also important to know that your family is in a safe situation, either together with you in this country or in a safe situation in the home country. And it can be very important for this area of needs to provide psychosocial support. We will probably make an Inspire Europe webinar about this topic, particularly later, probably early 2021. Then for support for professional development is of course about academic development in your own subject area, doing your research, developing, publishing, etc. But there is also generic academic skills such as networking, academic writing and publishing, attract funding, teaching, entrepreneurship, etc. And then also some more general skills such as cultural skills, language, work culture, etc. And we've seen from the Inspire Europe mapping that the researchers at risk are asking for all this kind of support. This slide is not about researchers at risk, but it's a little reminder for us, because this is an example of Norway, where we can see where do we find Norwegian PhD candidates 6 years after graduation. So this is about just any person who took a PhD in Norway. Where do we find them 6 years after? And then we can see that only 25% have a permanent position in higher education. And this shows that even in a country like Norway, where I think we have maybe one of the higher numbers of permanent positions in higher education, there is a very small percentage who actually get these kind of positions. So we have to look elsewhere. So research institutes, for those in medical sciences, university hospitals, private sector is a bit more than 20%. And then some go to public sector. The good thing is that almost none are unemployed. But I think this is a good picture to look at, because we saw in the Inspire Europe mapping that while the universities and support organizations talk about the structural challenges of the academic labor market as a very important challenge when it comes to support researchers at risk, the researchers themselves maybe think that it's difficult because I am a foreigner or I am at risk, but it's actually very difficult for everyone. I just brought with me a list of what was expected for people participating in a postdoc program at the medical faculty at the University of Oslo, my university. And I think when you look at this list of things that we want to teach the postdocs, any postdoc, in addition to actually doing the research and actually doing the publishing, you see that it's very much the same things that the researchers at risk need. For example, how to write competitive applications for research funding, how to work in an interdisciplinary team, knowledge about innovation, knowledge about research policy at different levels, etc. So it's very much that the needs are similar to the needs of others, and then we have to see to what degree can we actually assist researchers at risk to join general programs and courses at the university, and to what degree do we need to make special possibilities. So where to find and give support? I think it's important at the host institution to have more people involved in the program or in this work. So it's good to have one institutional or administrative contact person who can make sure the university safeguard the safe environment, help with administrative systems and hassle, and also look into cultural and generic skills and join up the scholar for this. Then I think it's very important to have an academic mentor at the host unit. And this is someone who will work with the researcher on the actual situation of that person and this subject. So how to develop the research, how to get academic integration and join up with the others. And then I think it's also important to use existing career development courses and programs. So it can be programs at the institution, or it can be national and international courses and programs. So the institution can help to find all these different sorts of assisting services. Then last week I was in touch with one of our SAR scholars at the University of Oslo, and he said, "Oh, I remember you told me about the analogy of the gym." And then I thought, "Oh, I'll bring this up again, actually." And this is that the host institution is a bit like the trainer in the gym, giving facilities, tools, directions, and support. But it is up to the researcher at risk to set goals and work on his or her academic muscles. And the goals can be very different for different people. Thank you.
Thank you, Marit. That's very interesting, the last slide. Thank you so much. Please stay with us for the questions and answers. Ms. Adrianopoulou, are you ready? Okay.
Yes, I hope, yes. Now,
Back. Thank you.
let's see if now it works. Now, I think so. Is it working? Do you see my presentation? I think so, right? I don't hear anything. Okay, so I will start. So thank you, Marit, also for the insights from Oslo. I can also relate to this as from Bielefeld University in Germany. We have been hosting in the last 5 years several researchers at risk, and indeed this what you said is very, very relevant. I would go now to the two projects, especially the first one, which is already finished, the Bridge project, a European project, and I would like to share some thoughts and results from these projects. So at the beginning, perhaps some figures also for you, how integration in the European labor market for refugees in general works. So 50% of humanitarian migrants need between 5 and 6 years more to integrate into the workplace than migrants without any humanitarian background. This is very relevant. So if you want to integrate researchers at risk, if you want to integrate them in academia or in industry, or in any kind of workplace for highly skilled professionals, you have to know that you will need much more time. So, and you see here also, they need 15 years to reach a 70 employment rate in the population. Next one. So The main reasons that hinder the access to the labor market for refugees in Europe, they are not specific to our work, and they are not very easy to change from our work. So they're very hard obstacles like the parents' education, the origin and long residency effects. But one part that we can really influence is the higher education and skills that better the employment outcome. But still, this is only a small part that we can influence. And such as, for example, the language knowledge or supplementary occupational skills. Some figures from Germany, which is a quite prosperous labor market, let's say like this in the European context. Still here, you can see that 35% of the asylum seekers in Germany have an employment, and 30% of all of them have mentioned that they have an academic degree, so bachelor, master's, or a PhD. The refugees in Germany, so this is a very high percentage. In other countries in Europe, this is not exactly the case. So it is very similar to the national percentage in Germany. So anyway, so you can imagine that people that were working in academia in their countries before they were forced to leave them were working mostly for the state, because most of the universities in, for example, in the Middle East are public universities. So after the uprooting, 0% is working for the state in Germany. So these are a bit concerned numbers, so to say. We created this program, this project Bridge for Researchers in Danger Going to Europe, as an idea to upscale the work we were doing in Bielefeld University and in other institutions across Europe. And you can see here the partners. The project has ended. I just wanted to pay attention to how many different departments in the same university were working together. So in Bielefeld University, in order to do this project, is not just one person or one little team. There are many different parts of the project and of the work that a university can do and may do and has to do in order to integrate refugees. In the Bridge project, we supported more than 250 highly skilled refugee researchers in 21 countries. Most of them were located in Germany and in Greece. But we had also people, beneficiaries in many other countries. So you can see here the slide. You will get the slides at the end, as far as I know. The people that were working with us as refugee researchers, they came from many different countries as well. And most of them came from Syria and from Turkey, followed by Iran, Iraq, and many other countries in Asia, Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America. So we worked with refugee researchers in this project in many aspects. One of the aspects was to give many trainings. So 104 people attended to these trainings, and also non-academic mentors in these 2 project years. And we included 80 academic mentors in several actions. So the project had at the beginning, especially, until the very end, we had the conference in February, a very high synergy potential. We had also a survey that I would like to share a bit. Well, some of the things have to be published yet, so I cannot say everything, but the survey that we had across Europe these are not the same refugee researchers, so it's anonymous survey. I don't really know who took part, but we know that it was a representative sample, more men than women, like in general with researchers at risk, and from several countries, also representative, as also in our project, and as also in many other projects that I've been aware of. So in this samples of the 224 people and that participated in the survey, we had predominantly people from engineering, mathematics, natural sciences, and business and economic schools. And they were quite proficient in languages, so almost half were proficient in the use of English. And 7 out of 10 can speak the language of the host society. 6 out of 10 were employed or are employed. They, although they're employed and although they're satisfied, they answered the main obstacle to overcome, to be integrated in the labor market, is the command of the host society's language. And what they also said was quite interesting, well, we expected it somehow, but not so prominent, was how important it is to have a relationship with an academic mentor. So guidance in their career from an academic perspective, in order to plan research proposals, to find funding, to understand the working culture, the rules and the regulations of the host academic job market. Some of these perspectives are more qualitative, not in a quantitative way, but in a qualitative way. You can find them in the videos, in the video handbook, which you find here, the link. And in the video handbook, you can listen how mentors themselves and mentees speak about this relationship and how they work together. In our opinion, from the Bridge Project, the one very important thing is how you work with academic mentors, and we need suitable formats and projects and funding for this. It's not so easy to find time and funding for the development of the work with academic mentors in order to integrate them better in this work, which is more work for them, for sure. And also, it is important to have funding for the language courses of the host country, and also to and also to find possibilities of training of career advisors, especially at the university, but also career advisors, for example, in other entry points of the labor market. This is very important because many of the people have a long journey behind them with not the right advice at the right time, or even wrong advice. So we really need some people there to take care of this specialized population segment, so to say, of the labor market. The second project, I don't have the time to present results of it, but it will end soon, and then we will present also results. We tried in the second project where we worked also with the University of the Aegean, the esteemed colleagues, which are doing their great work. I heard also in the morning. And we have piloted there some other measures that like internships in industry that we would like to share with you in the next occasion. So here you have some impressions from Moria in the left, down to Gothenburg in the right app. So yeah, it has been a journey. You can see also the countries of the projects, a big journey for the refugees themselves, but also for us and for the universities involved. Here you have some links that you're going to have in the presentation. And afterwards, I think perhaps some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, my coordinator. We'll have all the questions and answers at the end, so please, you have to stay with us. You're coordinating this session too. Next speaker is Colette Gerards, the project manager and international cooperation projects of the Free University of Amsterdam, Vrije Universiteit. Colette has recently took over also as the coordinator for the VU program for academic freedom and scholars at risk. She will talk about the relationship between long-term perspective of scholars and the labor market in host countries. Colette?
Open your mic, Colette.
I apologize. Good afternoon, everybody. Kind greetings from Amsterdam. Just a brief question. Would you like me to share my screen?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's a pleasure to be part of your conference. We are back in semi-quarantine in the Netherlands, so unfortunately we could not be there in person, but I hope you're having a great meeting. Alexandros, who you all probably know very well, has invited us to give some feedback on one of the intellectual outputs of a project that was completed last year, which was an Erasmus Plus strategic partnership, the partnership was led by the University of Thessaloniki and Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, which we represent, and the University of Cologne were part of that partnership. The project focused on the response of university to the academic needs of refugee migrants and students. And in Greece, there was a particular focus on the development of training models for volunteers that were working with refugees on psychosocial support and legal support. But for Amsterdam, and that was mainly the work of my colleagues who have recently retired, Kees Schmidt and Rien Kool, they focused on intellectual output 3, which we will be talking about today. So Jorn and myself have kind of taken over from them. So if we don't know all the answers, I'm sure Alexandros can help. The intellectual output was a joint collaboration with colleagues Dr. Berner and Dr. Müller from the University of Cologne. So what was this output all about? It was initially intended to compose a guide with best practices for host institutions and academic hosts. But once the project started, we discovered that there were a number of projects going on at the same time that had a similar focus. So indeed, we have still included best practices and examples, but we shifted a little bit in focus to look more at the opportunities and challenges for integration of the scholars. And we, in this presentation, particularly want to focus on the career paths and the career development for scholars at risk in the Dutch and German context, but also in the wider European context. So the methodology our colleagues used was based on surveys. And when they started with one survey, they discovered that it would be a good idea to include a number of angles. So instead of having one survey, there was one survey specifically geared towards the institutions. And so the administration and the policy part of the higher education institutions that were hosting scholars. So they were asked like, why are you including scholars? How, what funding models do you use? And then of course the perspective of the scholar was requested. So what are your needs, expectations, perceptions, and how do you see your future career developing? And there was the academic host perspective, so the head of the department or the professor under which a person would start working. And what was their motivation, the expectations, and how do you actually assess, after some experience with a scholar, what the career perspective would be. These surveys were followed up by a number of qualitative interviews. But what now is standing out for us is, at Vrije at least, is that we are struggling a bit with the definition of what is a scholar. So looking at the policy and the agreements and the support we offer, a scholar at risk is somebody who is temporarily at risk and has an opportunity to go back home after some time because the situation is more stable, there's no war, people can resume their jobs at their home institution. Of course, we've always had refugee scholars, but they have gone through an asylum process and they have a refugee status, which makes them start a Dutch life or German life in that sense. But the current cohort of scholars at risk we host are kind of somewhere in between. So they are not no longer able to return home after 2 years. They have not applied for asylum. So they're kind of in a guest fellowship role, which makes them vulnerable and creates an unstable relation or an unstable situation for them. And this is something we want to talk about later on as well. But today we're really focusing on what are the long-term issues and needs for these scholars. So the ideal situation, if you host a scholar, is actually, I guess for everybody, for the scholar, is that he finds a safe place to work, and if he has a family, for his family, and he finds an appropriate academic position. So that means there's a match between his past scientific or academic experience and the current post that he assumes at the host institution. Now, for the host institution, ideally, there's an additional member of staff. Of course, there'll be some starting up problems or it takes time to settle in, but ideally, the host, the scholar at risk will become a lecturer and will contribute to the general outputs the university aims at, so contribute to research and to education of students. And for the host academic, ideally he adopts a fellow academic in his research group where they can jointly publish and benefit from each other's expertise, and also there might be some complementarity because somebody comes from a different region. So this is the ideal situation. However, of course, it's not that easy, because the scholar will experience that there are limits to the institutional support that the higher education institution can offer. There's issues with family accompanying the scholar, but also family left behind, visa, asylum issues. There might be a need for psychosocial support. So there's definitely support needed beyond what is normally offered to regular international scholars. And now there's also, of course, shortfalls in hosting, because there might be a mismatch of expectations between the host and the scholar. The host might lose interest at some point, and because the scholars are often on a fellowship, and they become kind of lost in a department if it's not carefully monitored. Now, of course, for the scholars, there's also some risks. Think about arriving from a very turbulent situation, family issues, you need to find a house, you need to settle, children need to attend school. And then in your department, you might discover that there's a mismatch in methodologies, there might be backlogs, there might be disciplinary differences given the difference in regions. There's often an issue with the academic English. So they might feel very unstable and uncertain. And also the future might be unstable and uncertain. So there's definite needs in that sense. What we also found from the survey is that whereas the higher education institutions and the scholars report a lot of social needs and issues, the host academics, they raise academic issues and needs. So, and the major issue for all the players, for all the three target groups in the survey was that how will we move from a fellowship into a more permanent position? So that means also that there might be competition over regular academic positions within the institution or in the faculty. And what is the long-term perspective then? So we also explored that there's of course the idea of remaining in academia. And in that case, there's a definitely need for academic mentoring and for a dual career perspective. And if a scholar will not remain in academia, there's definitely a need for job coaching. And I think from here on, my colleague Jorn will take over. Jorn, shall I keep the slides going?
That's fine. Thank you, Colette. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jorn Doorns. I'm also working at the Center for International Cooperation at Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. I was also part of the project team. So let me take you through some of the guidelines for a responsible relationship. As Colette was mentioning, it starts with the matching process. So we consider hosting a refugee scholar is not an emergency aid, but we should consider it as an attempt of laying a foundation, a basis for a sustainable reorientation of an academic career. And therefore the overlap in interest and common research focus may not be enough, but more important are also possible joint projects and perspectives of developments for future and further career opportunities. So there should be a bold plan A, so to say, but also a good alternative plan B, ideally on the table before a host offers, well, before institution offers to host a scholar at risk. Okay, the next one, Colette. So in terms of, I will speak about career relaunch and also proactive support. So in terms of career relaunch, it is the responsibility of the Higher Education Institute to make sure that the matching process is conducted as thoroughly as possible. So this implies, for example, that the higher institution takes on the role of becoming a scientific member, a mentor for the scholar. And they also have to consider the support to prepare the scholar for a career relaunch or even a second career. In terms of proactive support, this means that certain scholars may not have the international, the experience with international competitiveness, and they may ignore fundamental characteristics of academic pathways and employment options. So it's key to guide them in this process. In addition, forced migrants often arrive without any preparation in the host country, so unfamiliar with the language and customs and everyday routine. So it includes coaching on an individual level, but also on a family level. For example, schooling, daycare, integration and acculturation of spouse and also children. And also personal support might help other individual needs. So a tailor-made approach is required. Please, the next slide, Colette. So in terms of specific recommendations, A scholar in general needs a considerable time to come up to speed in the new academic environment. So placement of
Mr. Dorman, I'm sorry, your time is up. So if you want to take another 1 or 2 minutes to conclude, please. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the last slide. Okay, I'll make it brief. So, so two to 3 years is recommended, and especially because 1 year is needed to find a job. So what can host institutions do? They can help them with academic writing and proposal writing, but also offer them language courses. Because of the uncertainty for scholars, they will help with employability, so also looking at other career opportunities, and in this case also other national institutions might help in this respect. So practical issues with administration issues for also members of the family is one thing that should in which the scholar should be supported with. And lastly, psychosocial issues are not to be overlooked. So yeah, these were some of the major recommendations that came out of this study. So the next slide, please, Colette. So for the discussion later, we'd like to invite you to discuss with us also coming back to the definition of scholars at risk. What are their needs at the moment, and is there indeed do we need indeed a shift in policy and practices from all stakeholders involved? Lastly, here's a download link in our presentation that gives you access to the full publication. In here that reflects a number of cases and good practices. So thank you very much for listening. So as mentioned, this was based on the research done by Dr. Johannes Müller, Marines Kool, and Heike Börner from collaboration both with Keulen University and Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Here are our contact details, and you may also click the Center for International Cooperation to view our website. Thank you so much. And we'll be here for questions during the Q&A. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, John and Colette. All this information will be available to all the participants after today. So you will, if you need the information, you will get it. Now I want to welcome Ms. Christina Kontogoulidou. She's here. She's the head of International Relations Office at the University of Piraeus, Greece. She has 25 years of experience in working in this area, so we will listen to her with interest.
Thank you, Professor Stylianidou. First of all, many thanks to the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki and Professor Triantafylidis for inviting me and participating in this network. I will present to you the experience of the University of Piraeus. The University of Piraeus, we have the first experience 2016 under the Erasmus program, Erasmus Mobility, OLS for Refugees. This is program have trained the refugees to learn foreign languages with an OLS platform and give you the refugees call for integrating them into the European countries when they live. OLS for Refugees with the University of Piraeus was considered a good practice from the European Union under the Erasmus program. Explain the reasons for considering the good practice. The first, University of Piraeus opened the door from the refugees. The refugees is a foreign population from the target group of universities. The course is offered 3 times per week in laboratory at the University of Piraeus. Creativity into one guide from the platform in Arabic and Farsi. Form this effort, assistant, Municipality of Piraeus, NGO organization Earth, and partners, university, from the Erasmus program, International Great Mobility, for North Africa. For example, University of Alexandria, Ben Gurion University of Israel, and the other university. How to help us? Acceptance incoming Erasmus student for placement. These students learn, speak Arabic languages, and I help us to training the refugees in the platform from the program. I have many applications to come to University of Piraeus and learn the platform from languages. EOLES platform from International Relations Office learn the languages from refugees. After this experience, you have many applications for refugees to want to join the curriculum of the University of Piraeus. I explain you, this is refugees, not any certified documents. It's very difficult for us to accept these people, but the University of Piraeus has included in the strategy the possibility to offer courses to the appeals even through refugees had not certified documents. In the framework, Jean Monnet chairs in European Union's Education, Training, Research and Innovation Policy, the Bologna Center of the University of Piraeus, and from the Erasmus program, offering courses in the refugees, but from ability as listening in Greek and English. Refugees can be registered in the offered courses, and they could have normal workload and normal program, but this not reflect an official university document or diploma, give you or certificate. Informally, without not give you degree, because Greek law does not allow it, and without required qualification, University of Piraeus could not accept the refugees in the department of the university of the second and the third cycle. The refugees accept only the third cycle. This is program successful until the last year because the OLS for refugees stopped from European Union. This is program I help us, the ESN, the international students from Erasmus program, the volunteer students, and all students you have training not only from languages and courses in university, organize courses with the social life, organize training for the other subject in Greek culture, in common University of Piraeus, and you common from Greek students, from international students. It's very nice for the refugees. This is not formal way. Now, from the formal way, the other way, you give your ability for the refugees, the University of Piraeus department, for give us official document by the country that issue the high school diploma with grade and have accept. This is lines from under the Greek Ministry of Education. The refugees will follow the course the Greek languages, and the University of Piraeus is available to welcome refugees according to the Greek law in the second and third cycle, but side note, we did have any application for master program or doctoral thesis. This is guide in Arabic and Farsi, and all students I organize training for social inclusion, for activity, for theater, for music, for everything. Now, under this is program, the University of Piraeus founded program from the European Union. The first program is upgrade program KA2 for adult education. This is program aiming the refugees and migrant European Union in order to assist through education and training to integrate the European Union society and labor market. And this program is continued because trainings the refugees promote the European Union cultural diversity, access the OLS languages, and utility the skills profile tools. A platform has developed in order to assist the refugees and migrants and give you help to integrate the labor market associated in European Union. This program is continuing the first program, and the refugees to attend the first program, I help us, and this is program. The other program, the other Jean Monnet is include you. Organize work for students and for teachers in schools. Under the Erasmus KA3 teacher preparation for migrant school inclusion. This is project give you tools and teaching material for guidelines for teacher multiplication classes for school leaders facilitate for integration of students with migrant background to schools. And teaching value from this program is creating of toolbox, teaching languages for schooling for students with migrant background, integration practice, e-learning platform, a curriculum and material elaborated for introduction classes. From this program, participate the University of Belgium and participate the University of Craiova. The creation of a toolbox preparate from research at risk. And finally, the other music program. This is program you aims the project give you focus for integration refugees, migrant, international students under the higher education systems to give you opportunities for internalization in higher education, promotion or development universities. You creative and MOOCs for order education staff and the universities. Conclusion. All Greek universities, you have many experience with financial and program European Commission funded project. Give you many training teacher for to integrate the refugees, the gain skills, experience, labor market, social life, and culture, European Union. For the formal, maybe change the Greek law. There is now not easy institutionalization legal framework from the procedure for integration of refugees research risk. Maybe that it's a change here and give you the others, help us, universities, from the other project for the common synergy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tatoglidou. I've been informed that the next speaker is Mr. Cengiz Aktas. He's on break. Professor Aktar is a lecturer at the Faculty of Turkish Studies and Modern Asian Studies at the Kapodisian University of Athens. And he will, the title of his speech is An Academic's Journey the Last 10 Years. Mr. Aktar, welcome.
Great thanks to the organizers and to Inspire Europe. As you just mentioned, Madam Chair, I'm supposed to talk about my own saga. It started actually in 2013, some time ago now, where my university at the time, the Bahçeşehir University in Poli, in Istanbul, has decided to abolish the Department of European Union Studies that I was heading within the Faculty of Political Science. Why I'm talking about this, that can happen anywhere. Well, I think that gives already a hint about the events that followed regarding the path Turkey has taken since 2013. I qualify this path de-Westernization. Turkey is de-Westernizing since then, and it's becoming a different country, really. So my entire team, of course, has been disbanded, and the students had to choose other courses, which is quite unusual, actually. Following this unfortunate, yet, in my opinion, expected development, I joined another university. I was offered a position in another university in Poli, again, the Süleyman Shah University, for a postgraduate seminar on the EU matters. Not only my faculty, but the entire university, this very Süleyman Shah University, was closed after, together with 14 other universities, supposedly belonging to the putschists. I'm talking about the coup d'etat of the 15th of July 2016. So 14 plus 1, 15 universities, which were summarily closed without any sort of, court cases against them. Therefore, I'm frankly far from being the only one who had to bear the consequences of this very unilateral and exceptional deed. Therefore, I would like to conclude with 3 sets of facts and figures related to what I shortly did describe as far as my last years in Turkey. I mentioned that we did 15 universities which were closed down. Thousands of teachers, academics have been, of course, made redundant. But there was another attempt by the government same year after the coup d'etat by making redundant professors, academics in the public universities. That one, mine was a private university. So to give you a figure that I collected from a recent study, there are around 65,000 academicians in Turkey. Altogether, 9,000 of them have been made redundant through either the direct closure of the universities or being laid off from the public institutions. That makes 14%. It's huge. Although no reliable figure is available for the expatriation, which is the hundreds of them have departed and found jobs abroad. That corresponds clearly to a brain drain. And Turkey is suffering from it, will continue to suffer from it, and it reminds me what happened to Iran after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, actually. Finally, my third point, to sum up in a way, the autonomy of the universities in Turkey has been largely abolished, especially through the nomination of the presidents of the universities by the President of the Republic, regardless of the votes they have received. So I think in the months and years to come, the Turkish academicians will continue their expatriation because they can simply not find a job in the country, and several of them are quote unquote marketable, and they are of high quality, and they will continue to look for job opportunities abroad. Thank you, Orla.
Ms. Hayek, thank you very much, Jacques, for your talk. Now it's the time, and I thank all the panelists that I think it went very successfully. Now it's the time for questions and answers. I'm not sure, Eleni Andrianopoulou, my coordinator, are you there? You want to handle this part?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah. As far as I write your questions in the F&A section below, and we will take over there. But I would like to ask the last panelist first. What would be your advice to yourself if you could go back in time and start your journey again, all over again? Where are you? Where are you? I cannot see you in the. Are you there? Is Actas there, our last panelist? No? No?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Eleni, I'm sorry, but I don't think I hear very well. So you're asking a question yourself, or we're opening the session
No.
with questions and answers?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
we
I
cannot
opened
hear you in Thessaloniki very well.
No? I'm very sorry for this. If this doesn't work, then tell me. But I was looking for the last panelist, Actas. I had a question for him, but I cannot see him.
Oh, but from what I understand, Professor Akhtar has left already. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Then let's go back to the rest of the colleagues. Thank you very much for the presentations, all of you. I would like to know from you, what would be your next step? What would you do now? What after all this journey and all this work? Perhaps we can start in my panel. I see Marit first.
Thank you, Eleni. From the University of Oslo, I think we will continue the work that we are doing at the institution with receiving 4 SAR scholars every year. And we also see that the number of students from refugee countries of origin of refugees is increasing at the university. So I think things are working quite well nationally. We will also cooperate with other Norwegian institutions, and I think if the Greek universities are forming a SAR national network, then we would like to cooperate with them as well. And of course, continue to join in with the projects like the Inspireurope project, which will go on for several years. And there we will continue to work on what are the important things to train institutions and employers when it comes to giving the best opportunities for researchers at risk in our host institutions.
Okay, thank you, Marit. And in Freie Universität, so Jorn and Colette, what would be your next step?
Yes, from Vrije in Amsterdam, the issues we've raised about the definition of what a scholar is and what is the best way to move forward. We are currently therefore reviewing our program to see if we can make a better fit. And also we are having, well, not a problem, but our national body, the UAF, has stopped supporting the Scholars at Risk program financially, which means the burden or the funding would have to come from our university solely. So that's also a bit of an issue. That means we can host less students than we did before, which is okay because we will continue with the program. We're just looking at the appropriate fit. In addition, we have the COVID crisis has kind of revealed another pressing issue, which is not related to the scholars, but which is related to a group of students, which in Amsterdam, in the region, we call them undocumented students. So they're not refugees, but they are in the Netherlands and their parents have moved here and they have been working here, but off the record, kind of, so well, in a legal circuit. And these children in the Netherlands, as long as they are 18, they have all these rights. So they have medical insurance, they have a right to education, but at the moment they graduate and they are eligible for university education, they're almost 18 or they are 18. In the minute they're 18, they cannot register. So if they register before they're 18, they're still eligible, but otherwise no. So we are also looking at how can we support this group. So that's another issue which is related to our overall theme of today, I guess. So yeah, at the moment, those are the issues we are working on and we are progressing with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you also for giving us this attention to this also marginalized group. Thank you.
Yes,
please,
and maybe, if I may, the issue is,
yes,
is COVID related in the sense that because often their parents do not have jobs anymore because they're not in formal employment. This issue is particularly sensitive at the moment because these families are also in a position where there's no income but also no rights to any social benefit. So that's why I would like to raise that group. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I got it. Well, the COVID-19 has raised a lot of issues also for the institutions. Mobility is an issue and mobility is crucial for academia. And we have experienced this all the time, so to say, with the refugees that are not so mobile and have therefore a lot of additional obstacles to overcome for their career. So it's a new world. We will see how this will work out altogether. I would like to remind you that here below you have the questions and answers. Please post your question there and I will speak out the question if you have a question from the audience, okay? So, and now Orla, please tell me your experience. What is your next step? What is the next step? The work.
Yeah, thank you, Eleni. As Henriette mentioned this morning, the next big step for the Inspireurope project is the launch of our mapping report, and this has taken up a lot of time in terms of a lot of consultation has happened to date with researchers at risk and also with host institutions. And I think some of the findings from that will also be utilized in terms of our advocacy work and more engagement on the policy dimension, liaising with the European Commission and also with national governments to look at replicating some of the excellent work that's already happening in France, in Germany, also in Finland with their national program through EDUFI. There is excellent best practice already occurring. It's just how can we go about replicating that, and mindful, as you say, of the challenges of COVID and the challenges that are going to be facing the higher education community over the coming months, but also not neglecting the collective responsibility we have towards supporting researchers at risk. So for the Inspireurope project, that's going to be a big event happening in early November. The results from that will also has implications for the rest of the project, and we will ultimately be leading to a policy recommendations report that will be launched later in the project. But it also hopefully will allow us to engage more with other projects like the Bridge project, like the CARE project that is being run by ACCA, and maybe to combine our collective advocacy efforts, particularly with the European Commission and with national governments. So there's a lot coming up, but I think we can work possibly together on that collectiveness around advocacy and direct support, and how we can look at replicating what's happening and increasing that support, and hopefully building on those connections within Europe, but also extending them into Central, Southern and Eastern Europe. And I know there will be a follow-up meeting to this on October 12th in Greece about hopefully setting up a Scholars at Risk section for Greece, and utilizing the work that's been done by other sections and the platforms that they have created. So hopefully there is efforts that we can work together on in Greece also, and the learnings from today will obviously help that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Ola. I have 3 questions. The first one comes from Alexandros, I think in real time or in visualized, right?
Hello, can you hear me?
Do you want to take the floor?
Okay.
Yes, yes, there are more questions. Okay, yes, go ahead.
I would like to thank all the excellent presenters today. Sorry, I think you can hear me, no? Yeah, okay, okay.
Yes,
for their inspiring actions that they do in their own countries, trying to help supporters at risk. We've heard excellent stories from France already, from Sweden, from Germany, from Netherlands. And just because, continuing on what Orla said, on the 12th of October, we're going to be having a meeting in from Greek universities about organizing maybe a SAR section. My impression today was that in most cases in your universities, there was a top-bottom approach where there was money coming, first of all, from the rectors or from the national, from the ministry. Whereas we heard, for instance, excellent research projects from the University of Piraeus, where they were, in most cases, coming from a specific coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. So did those top-bottom actions from the rectors start on their own, or was there already some pressure from the bottom in order for the rectors to decide to support such projects, or the ministries? That's my main question, and I would like also Christina Kontovoulidou's views on what's happening in her university.
Thank you, Alexandros.
For the question, I will answer in the Bridges project.
Thank you, Alexandros.
Just a moment, Christina, we will go, because it is a question for everybody, if you may wait. Okay, again, sorry.
I would suggest
you hear me now again.
Lenny, because Professor Triantafylidis asked Dr. Kontovoulidou to answer, so why don't we hear her first?
Thank you, Alexandros. From University of Piraeus, it's pleasure to participate in the other project and for everything. If to organize on a network from this is okay for us. And it add value for University of Piraeus to participate. This is network, and this is project with research from risk and the refugees. Because Port Piraeus is first port, and you have many, many refugees and the other to help us. That's all for me.
Okay, now perhaps. Thank you. Sorry, it's a bit confusing, the hybrid form sometimes. I'm sorry. I just wanted to reply shortly on this bottom-up or top-down approach from the rectorates. I would be very surprised if a rectorate would decide something totally out of the blue. So in our case, this didn't happen like this. Of course, the initial work was by a decision by the rectorate giving a fellowship, of course, but to do this, we have worked in the international office, in the Welcome Center, and with the faculty to achieve this. So I think this would apply for most of the universities, that it will be multi-approach. And Marit wants to add something on this.
Yeah, I can say from Norway, it was actually in most of the Norwegian universities, it was a pressure from the students, from a student organization first, and then those first institutions connecting to scholars at risk, the rectors of those universities actually sent out letters to all the other higher education institutions in Norway to make them also join. And at the University of Oslo, the funding is coming from the university board. So this is a combination of a lot of good work done from students, from departments, but also the university board is hands-on.
Yes. I suppose this applies for everybody else. Do you want to add something, Colette? Or Jorn? Or should we pass to the next question?
Yeah, it's similar. The money comes from the university board here as well. It's also part of our university philosophy to be an inclusive and diverse university, open to academic freedom, of course. Also, we have a long-standing program for refugee students called FOSFU, where students are offered a bridging year, you know, to be able to enter university. So it's part of a bigger number of actions. So the scholars are a part of the whole approach. And of course, in the Netherlands, we have the UAF, which is the foundation for refugee students and scholars, which has also always been very supportive. But they are funded by donation. So they are a foundation and not funded so much supported by government in that sense.
And then I guess in addition to that, maybe also the VU has set up a fund for academic freedom. So sometimes from time to time they do fundraising. It's not a lot, but still there is some funds available then.
Yeah. So there's core funding from the rectorate, but then there's like a staff donates their Christmas bonus to the fund. That type of fundraising is also there. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask something, how much time we have, because there are several questions and I would like to know how much time we have. But I will go to the, perhaps Alexander, you can tell me.
We have 10 minutes.
Or Ariadne, yes, 10 minutes. Okay, we have 5 questions for 10 minutes. So that's why I will put some pressure now. So the one question is from Sinead. Thank you, Sinead. More details on the situation of researchers at risk and refugee researchers in Greece itself. Yes, you mentioned several researchers currently in Greece were supported by the Bridge Project, right? So in the Bridge projects, we have about 50, 60 researchers, refugee researchers located in Greece from several countries of origin. And so the situation is very, well, they're not all in the same condition. Some of them are searching for fellowships in Germany or in Sweden. Some of them are very happy in Greece having a job there, or they're part of our internship program in Bridge 2. Some of them left Northern European countries to go back to Greece to work there. So there is no one researcher as an example for it. But in the bridge projects, as I explained it before, we have people mostly that have already a PhD degree. So therefore, yeah, their situation is quite prosperous in any case, even if it is in Greece or in somewhere else. But of course, in Greece, the main problem for these people is the long-term waiting time for the asylum process. This is the main problem that this kind of population have. I hope I answered. If not, then we could continue. The second question comes from Yasser. Hi, Yasser. It's nice to see you from Bielefeld. What are the reliable communication mechanisms for sharing information and holding meetings with researchers during the Corona period? What is being done to protect the data? How serious is the issue? So, yeah, would you like to say something? So this is something I think that goes to everybody, also to the organizers of the conference today. Would you like to answer something on the data protection in Corona times? Or should I pass this question?
Sorry, I can just jump in briefly. Yeah, it's something obviously that the Inspireurope project and the various organizers of the various activities take quite seriously, and we will ensure that everyone obviously would signs a GDPR statement before they share any information, but also on that wider issue of just protecting the data and the confidentiality of researchers. I just want to mention there's an organization that some might know called Frontline Defenders, and they have a digital protection program, and so they have this initiative called Security in a Box, and it has some very useful tools and approaches that researchers at risk can also use. While it's primarily focused on human rights defenders, there's also approaches and techniques and guidance that others can use in terms of their day-to-day use, especially for online resources, and you know, protective email servers or systems you can use and things like that. So if people want to check that out, the Digital Protection Project with Frontline Defenders is one that I'm aware of. Others may have other links, but I think this is an area within the Inspireurope project that we will look to do a dedicated webinar on, possibly in the early new year also, because it is a growing issue anyway pre-COVID. But obviously with the move to online and online teaching, as well as online events, it's a growing issue that we need to be very cognizant of. So we will be looking at this with a dedicated session in the new year.
Okay, thank you.
Κυρία Adrianopoulou, μας ακούτε? Miss Adrianopoulou, can you hear us? We've lost you at least in Thessaloniki. I don't know about the others. Can someone inform us?
We cannot hear her either.
So I guess since there are only 3 or 4 minutes left, we can conclude the session here. We met today through Zoom meeting, and some of us are here in the building, but our connection will be on for any questions. There is an afternoon session at 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, so we can. No question will be left unanswered. I'm sure about that. So we will have a break now, and we'll come back at 4 o'clock Greek time, which is what, 3 o'clock European, rest of Europe time. Okay, thank you all for being here or there in the universe. Bye-bye.